Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here, just doing a video in bed because I am resting up for me cleaning my house and doing inspection preparation for an apartment inspection. Been walking around all day, so I'm just kind of resting up a little bit before I go and do more stuff, more work. So I was walking around all day with my friend and doing various shenanigans and stuff like that. But anyways, enough about that. So what is this video about? So I just kind of thought of this off-the-cuff thing about Christianity and why I'm kind of opposed to Christianity. As a caveat, I don't think Christians are evil or Christianity is all bad. I find the Bible a very fascinating document. I have fantastical kind of things about, honestly, like marriage in a church in a really gothic kind of looking cathedral or something like that. I kind of have some fantasies about that sometimes. It'd be interesting. So anyways, I'm not completely opposed to Christian aesthetics or culture, especially of the New Age persuasion. I've mentioned a book or a Course in Miracles and Neville Goddard books and stuff like that in the past. So I'm not completely against Christianity or everything mystical Christianity, especially. No, I'm not a Satanist either, but I do like some satanic stuff, some Church of Satan things and some other things like that. And when it comes to just various things of the occult, so obviously, so I kind of have a little bit of both in me, I guess you'd say, in a certain way. But this is why I'm really opposed to Christianity. I'm just going to talk about this a little bit, this subject. And it was probably when I was starting to read a lot more into the occult and just stuff about how religions were founded, that I found this whole thing. I know it was in one of the Simon Necronomicon editions, this little introduction where they talk about the religions and how they rose through antiquity and so forth. And one of the things about Christianity that bothered me about that is that basically, a lot of the gods of the ancient pagan times were turned into these devils or demons that the Christians call devils or demons. And that's kind of how I see it. Through history, you're worshiping some god. Okay, maybe the god requires you to sacrifice a goat every 10 months or something, or occasionally in antiquity if it was a person, obviously. I don't think it's I think it's not the cartoonish thing that that people imagine, but there were things like that in antiquity. So Christianity and Judaism, especially, or in the beginning at least, come along and they say, well, we don't have to sacrifice things. That's cool. It's an advancement. We don't have to do all this stuff. Of course, they sacrificed millions of people over the centuries. Especially Christianity. No, we don't have to do this thing. We can teach this type of thing. But when it comes down to everything else, when you talk about what really makes it more superior than anything else that came before, what is it? Maybe it's an advancement in some ways, but at the end of the day, it's it's really not that much different than and worshiping anything else other than monotheism. There's certain evolutionary or psychological kind of reasons for why people became more monotheistic through time and through history towards gods and stuff. But really, what makes it more superior than these old religions that they demonized? Really, even ones that they co-opted some of the stuff, especially for the Christians that came later with Christmas and Saturnalia and stuff like that. Well, what really it makes them superior, especially when some of these older religions might have been closer to nature in some ways, or some type of thing that they had something different going on that might be superior to some of the stuff that came with Christianity. I really thought about this. It's all the stuff about the devil having horns and being this beast and stuff. It's it all comes from these old pagan ideas, all these other religions that were around. and Christians just said it was bad and it's evil, and the earth, the ground, and everything like that. So that's when I hear, like, when I listen to satanic metal, for example, I don't think about, like, I think about that as far as like them demonizing these things, and it's this weird mood that it gets me in, and this kind of like this vibe that I feel that I don't mind. I used to fear it, I can go into my story. I might do a separate video about that, but when I first heard Merciful Fate's Melissa, I'm going to go into a different video about that. But listening to that kind of stuff, I used to be actually scared of doing so, because I was so kind of brainwashed by certain aspects of Christianity. So I don't know. I don't really understand this whole idea that, all these old religions are bad. Not all of them sacrificed people, by the way, or sacrificed animals. Some of them did, some of them didn't. Some of them might even be closer to monotheism too. Some of them obviously were. But no, we're gonna say this God. We're gonna rename. We're gonna adapt a similar name to a demon that was once God. Baal or whatever, was once a god worshipped by people. Wasn't a demon. It was a benevolent figure in their mythology, and that's kind of what happened with a lot of these monotheistic religions that came later, is that they were demonizing the old religions that people, and that happens, through the epochs of history. That's what happens with old religions. Christianity might be the devil in the future. You never know. Just like, Judaism was never the devil. It's kind of connected. The three main religions are connected. Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So they're Abrahamic religions. The Abrahamic religions might be seen as like devil worship by some future civilization, because they were on the ashes of the previous civilizations that were around. So that's the whole concept that I have about Christianity, and that's why I am opposed to it, because it's like, what makes you better than these people? It's this smug, like, the whole smug thing about Christianity in the first place that I'm opposed to. It doesn't mean that all the stuff or all the mythology or all the occultic influence or mystical influence of Christianity that it had on other things, or individually inside of it, or Jesus or anything like that, is all bad. But I always question this aspect of it. It's like, the only reason why the devil has horns is because Pan, and I don't know if it's Pan and some of the other gods that people worshipped were, this is Satan, this is evil. Okay, we're going to draw these things to convert people to our religion as evil, so they don't worship horned gods or whatever. And Wicca, I've read a lot about Wicca being kind of made up to some extent. It's not, and that wasn't like an old time religion, but some of these things were. Wicca still had a basis in some history, in fact, but a lot of it was kind of, Gerald Gardner kind of made up a lot of shit too. So that's just as like the horned god thing is like, that there were cults and religions with horned gods in antiquity, and that's why the devil has horns. Fertility gods or whatever, earth gods. I don't see anything wrong, and that's the whole thing with Christianity. Why it's been so damaging is because it has this psychological kind of way of asserting itself in this manner that it's the only true religion. Of course, all religions have that, but Christianity is the worst culprit in some way. The Abrahamic religions in general actually are the worst culprits in regards to that, and that's why atheists are so against those things. Atheists are just the other side of the same coin, in my opinion, but because they're very smug and very like self-righteous and stuff. But yeah, Christianity, that's why I don't like Christianity. It's like, what's wrong with the old gods? I saw Hellun, I think they're pronounced, the band Hellun, Hylun, back in 2019 with an ex-girlfriend. Actually, 2020, sorry. It was January 19th or 20th, 2020. And they were this like Nordic band, like old school, like pagan Nordic band. That was good stuff. It's like, and Native American stuff is like that. They have kind of like the tribal kind of earthbound kind of thing. Like, why did Christianity like want to demonize these people so much? and say they were wrong and they're going to burn in hell. And a lot of these things, a lot of these ideas of hell and Satan are based on just basically like concepts. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them are based on these concepts in antiquity of, like the, just Gehenna is like a place in Israel. Like there's like places they base these ideas on, and that's really why I do not think, that's why that really broke the spell, so to speak, of me listening to Satanic Metal too. Like just learning that and just realizing that that's a lot of it, to me at least, is a lot of bullshit based on these old lies, basically. Like, I mean, old propaganda. It's like, and that's why I don't like it. It's like, every civilization is held together by morals and laws that come from something. I mean, they're not Christian in Japan, but they have like family values or whatever, and it's fine. Other civilizations, other countries worship different gods, and they still have those kinds of morals, and that's based on something else entirely that I'm not going to go into in this video. There's a lot of thought about what happens with what morals and ethics, or morals come from evolutionarily, or maybe just spiritually in a different way, more pluralistic way maybe, because the ultimate thing the fundamentalist is threatened by is not necessarily Satan or Satanism. Pluralism is the ultimate threat. It's kind of like when people are into like the two-party politics, like third parties, well, that's the real like mind fuck for these people. Like they were like, oh my god, a third party, or they're just glazed over about it, or ignore you like most people do with everything. But I'm just kidding. Well, anytime, I mean, it's hard to get people interested in what you have to say sometimes. I'm just saying, especially if you ramble a lot like me and jump from subject to subject. But nevertheless, it's like this. It's the ultimate paradigm shift is to think, well, maybe there's some truth in all religions, or maybe the two parties, or it's one of those truths that people, I think, on some level realize to some extent, but they'll back down, into their religion or whatever. No, it's the only true religion. Well, what about these people? Isn't there anything wrong with people that live in this country? They don't worship Jesus and they're fine. It's like they're fine. They're happy. I mean, as much as a human being can be happy, like in Japan is my prime example. It's like there's some stuff we might not find palatable about their culture. That there's some weird stuff about our culture, and they held it together though. There's some things that we never would go through, and there's problems, right, with every civilization, every culture. But they're relatively, if you look at something like that, they're relatively like, just for someone that's not a Christian nation. Well, I mean, look at that, but people, it needs to be a Christian nation, all this shit. It's like, no, look at other countries that don't follow Christ or Jesus or whatever. Some of them are doing great. It's more being a first world developed nation than following some antiquated fucking god, And I hate this. I hate these thoughts about like. I just don't like this whole thing. I realize that when people talk about, and that gets into people's bullshit too, like in the conspiracy culture, like people are like, oh, they worship Mammon, or they worship they worship Baal, or these gods, or Bohemian Grove. It's like they talk about all these things, and like, okay, I don't think that's the problem, is worshiping a god, even if it's like a little bit of like a kind of a role play, a LARP, almost like a theatrical kind of therapeutic thing that they do, psychodrama kind of thing, right? So maybe Bohemian Grove is kind of like that. Maybe some of these other things are these elites do. It's what they do, that it's criminal, period, that they accept under the guise of being moral and just and Christian or liberal or whatever. That's the evil, that's the new thing, because being like PC, like a liberal person, is like the new Christianity in many ways. Like, oh, I'm on the left. I'm a great person. I'm better than these people, these plebs that are voting for Trump, or drive their coal rollers, which is, to be honest, pretty cringe. Stuff like that. We're better than those poors, right? Unless they're a liberal poor, or they're a poor of color or whatever, a poor of some different sexual persuasion or gender persuasion. So that's kind of how that works. It's like that's the new like moral authority is this liberal thing, that kind of a very shallow liberal thing, because a lot of them do not talk about class or anything like that. A lot of them are pro corporation nowadays. I mean, you've seen the guy, the soy face guy with the Nintendo Switch. I bought a Nintendo Switch more recently, Switch Lite, and I love it. But like, the guy that had his wife's boyfriend bought the Nintendo Switch for him. It's like, you realize like the Nintendo Switch is like, probably some of the components are made in like third world countries with very bad labor practices. There's all these things, sourcing, just everything, distribution. The programmers in video games, they have to work like 12-hour shifts at times. It's like terrible. I mean, you probably hate someone. This guy probably hates. I'm just talking about this meme, right? This guy probably hates people that voted for Trump and stuff. But like, what have you done to like? Are you like pro labor? Are you like? Do you want to like make better hours for video game programmers and stuff? Do you want to like have manufacturing come back to the United States and pay, but at the same time pay people a decent wage too? I mean, if you're pro that, then I'm fine with you. But if you're like a total hypocrite about it, then fuck you, So that's kind of like what I see about like morality, like with Christianity and stuff. It's like there's such a like a not dualistic. What the word I'm thinking of is duplicitous kind of reality with a lot of that stuff, and I hate it. I hate that kind of stuff. So that's it's more of the morality of the Christian. The Christians ruin it for other Christians. I have a really good friend that's a Christian, but Christianity kind of ruins it for itself, for themselves, and for itself in some ways too, by saying you're the only moral authority. You're burned in hell if you don't. I mean, for one, that's the main thing for me. Is like the God that tells me I'm going to burn in hell for not like doing certain, even being a good person. Like, one of my best friends, I'm just going to say, grew up Lutheran, and my heart goes out to him for being this way throughout my life that I've known him since first day of first grade, by the way. Everybody knows who he is. I'm not going to mention who he is, but people can probably guess who know me pretty well. And this whole thing that he said, he always said like, well, I grew up, I mean, I don't think he's a believer now, but back in the day, he was like, I used to ask him, am I going to hell, right? Like, there's this other friend of ours who was like, told my friend he was going to hell, and he was smoking pop out of a pop can at the same time, which is kind of funny. Talk about duplicity. So I'm just going back to like a lot of these people in the past. For some reason, this like late 90s thing for me is like really relevant right now, obviously, because I listened to a lot of King Diamond in the late 90s too, by the way. So this whole duplicity. But anyways, my friend who's Lutheran, he's like, oh, if you're a good person, I don't think you're going to go to hell, even if you don't follow our religion. I'm like, it's about being, he's like, basically emphasizing it's about being a good decent person. Why would you go to fucking hell if you do not know about Jesus on some remote island, and you like help the poor on the island, or you don't do anything really that bad and shit, I mean, you do good stuff. Let's say you just do really good stuff, like the best you can be, the most selfless like person on the island. You're telling me, the Christian, you're telling me, because they don't know, they never heard of Jesus, like that it's not Latter-day Saints or anything either, where Jesus appeared in the Americas or whatever. You're telling me they're going to burn in hell for all eternity. And one of my friends doesn't believe hell is eternal, but he still believes that if you do not follow Jesus, you're going to burn in hell. even if it's like just like fucking uh like work release hell, basically what he's saying, like a minimum security hell, like, oh, you're in there for a few months and you go out. It's like it's just the logical leaps that you would have to have, the mental gymnastics. Now, the people that I know that are Christian now are very smart people, but I just I don't get that part of it. I never did, and people can explain away. I'm not going to ever be a Christian. Um, I'm never going to be in that same way. I mean, maybe part of me likes, Neville Goddard and, some of the Course in Miracles stuff, which is probably pagan to them anyways, probably New Age to them anyways. But I will never be like a Christian. I don't care. I used to watch the 700 Club every day, by the way. So I learned about a lot of the Christian thing, like maybe in a jaded, bad way, but nevertheless. So no, I'm not a Christian. And those are the reasons why.